Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer Meckles. Now, before we get to any of our teams, Shedeur Sanders is celebrating tonight. He finally got his name called in the draft by the Cleveland Browns.
The Cleveland Browns select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado.
And that was the moment former CU quarterback Shedeur Sanders officially drafted. And he finally gets his celebration jumping into the pool today. We know Shedeur was widely considered a first-round pick, and his slide down to the 14th overall in the 5th round was one of the biggest storylines of the draft this year. We'll have reaction coming up from Shedeur later in our sports segment. Joining us now, though, is sports anchor Ashley Moore, because we got to talk about the Avs and Landy scoring a goal. That was very exciting.
Absolutely. Over 1,000 days have passed since Landy has scored back in the 2022 Stanley Cup Finals, and he is back, scoring the 3rd goal for the Avs. The Avs currently lead the Stars 3-0 in the 3rd period. But I mean, that place erupted after Landy scored.
We were joking, was it like an earthquake down the street, or what was going on?
I felt my desk shake a little bit, you know.
Fun that he could do that in front of a hometown crowd.
Absolutely. Shout out to the captain.
All right. Well, maybe once that game's over, we can share highlights. So thank you, Ashley. And really, double dose of fun for fans watching two teams in the playoffs right now. Some of them are finding ways to split time between both teams. News reporter Colton Chavez joins us tonight at Ball Arena. You talked to a guy, Colton, who has season tickets for both of these teams in the playoffs right now.
Oh, Jenny, I got to talk about what you and Ashley were talking about. We were inside Ball Arena when Landy scored, and I'm telling you, tables were shaking. The walls almost came down in that place. An amazing atmosphere. And for sports fans, I mean, gosh, it's got to be such a hard time for us to be splitting time between the Avalanche and the Nuggets. And I met one man, his name is Brian, and his wife Linda, and they say they raised kids together, so they got no problem splitting their time with their favorite teams. Sports fans in the Mile High City pulling double duty during playoff weekend.
At the breaks, we're taking a look to see where the Nuggets are, for sure.
Brian and Linda Lamke have been Nuggets season ticket holders since '93, and Avalanche season ticket holders since
Day one for the Avalanche. So we've been here since the very start when they came from the Nordiques.
The high school sweethearts from Colorado Springs say they have a love for their teams and their deeply rooted rituals.
There's always these little things that just make it click. And some of that is tradition, being here on time, where we're at, where we're sitting, who we're with.
Sometimes it's an original celebration after the Avs score a goal.
It's the pinky.
The couple hope to be touching pinkies often as the Avs take on the Dallas Stars in Game 4 of the playoffs.
At least 6 times. I would say 7 would be great.
It's easy to be greedy when you have 2 teams in the postseason, making double duty feel like a dream job for any Denver sports fan.
And right now we have 2 teams in the playoffs. It's phenomenal. It really is.
I got to tell you, one of the greatest sports traditions that I ever have seen came today with Pinky Power. Amy Hunter is my photojournalist. She's with me. Give me some Pinky Power. Oh, it feels so good. And we could see more Pinky Power, because believe this or not, I was asking some of our sports folks out there, and they said the next time that we could see the Nuggets and the Avalanche play on the same day is if both teams play a Game 6. That would be on Thursday, May 1st. Live in Denver tonight, Colton Chavez, 9 News.
That could be kind of fun. All right, Colton, thank you. And while the Avs are on home ice right now, Nuggets got it done in a nail-biting finish on the road. Aaron Gordon knocking down a dunk at the final buzzer. Nuggets take Game 4 on the road. Their series is now tied with the Clippers as they head home for Game 5. Ashley will have more reaction on that game winner coming up later in the show. All right, let's take a live look outside tonight. We got to 77 degrees in Denver today. Tomorrow is looking even warmer. Our weather impact team is also tracking some fire weather warnings in part of our state, something we'll be keeping an eye on. Tonight, a man is in the hospital after being shot by a police officer in Craig. This happened just before 9 o'clock this morning. Craig police say officers got a report of a man with a gun, and when they got there, the man was actively showing that gun. Not clear what happened next, but we're told it ended in a shootout between that man and police. He got hit. He went to the hospital. We're told no officers were injured. The officer who shot the man is now on paid administrative leave. With just 48 hours left on his sentence, an inmate made a run for it at the Pueblo County Jail. Earlier this week, authorities say Lucas Brown was taking out the trash in the kitchen when he escaped. He'd been working a job in the kitchen that gave him access to outside. Took deputies about a half hour to find him. Court records show that Brown had previously pleaded guilty to escaping a mandated treatment facility in Aurora. At the Pueblo County Jail, he was given trusted privileges and access in exchange for good behavior.
Would you say that it was a mistake to give him this classification and to give him this position of higher trust?
Again, I don't know that. I'd have to review it. I don't know that there was a mistake made, because based on what we have of him here, it's the criminal mischief.
Brown lost his trusted status. Now he faces additional charges for that escape. An explosion at an Iranian oil port today killed at least 8 people. This happened in southwestern Iran. More than 750 other people were also hurt. It took crews a few hours to control the fire that started after that explosion, and a lot of buildings nearby were also damaged. The cause of this explosion is still under investigation, but it could be linked to where chemical materials are being stored. Also in Iran today, a third round of talks between the U.S. and Iran. The talks ran for several hours. A senior U.S. administration official says they were positive and productive. Nuclear talks are looking to limit Iran's nuclear program in exchange for lifting some sanctions against the country. Another round of talks is scheduled for next week. Several world leaders attended the funeral of Pope Francis today, and this moment was captured. President Donald Trump talking with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zalinsky in Vatican City. This comes as the White House is eager to strike a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. And the last time those two men met, Trump and Zalinsky, was back in February in what became a very tense discussion in the Oval Office. As for Pope Francis, he was known to many as the Pope of the People. Early this morning, as the world paused to say goodbye, his people were there, hundreds of thousands of them spilling out of St. Peter's Square for his funeral. The traditional Catholic service honored his humility, his sacrifices, his commitment to the faith. It was also a simple service, all laid out by Pope Francis, before his death. After the service, hundreds of thousands of people watched the procession to his final resting place, which is outside the Vatican walls, a first in more than a century. The last pope to be buried outside the Vatican was Pope Leo XIII back in 1903. Here in Colorado, at a special mass in Denver, a lot of people reflected on the legacy of Pope Francis, a legacy that often caused friction within Catholic doctrine and church leadership, but also endeared him to many everyday Catholics. 9 News reporter Ria Jha gives us a look at that service.
To be seen. To be loved.
It's like a part of my past.
To be accepted.
I was somebody that struggled with same-sex attractions, so I was in relationships with female most of my life.
There was a time when Jackie Montoya never would have pictured herself going to a mass mourning the Pope.
I mean, I dressed completely different, was short hair, I'm tattooed up, all of that.
While the Catholic Church still rejects same-sex marriage and condemns sexual relations between same-sex partners, it was Pope Francis who made it more welcoming for people like Jackie, who once felt pushed out.
This Pope was for the outcasts, of the ones that were rejected. He brought me back to the church. He made it okay to come back home.
They led him to the streets of Rome to be buried in Our Lady's Basilica. But guess what? You're also in Our Lady's Basilica here in Denver.
On the day of his funeral, Catholics in Denver gathered to mourn the Pope, who showed them acceptance.
Oh, he made great strides for the Catholic Church, promoting women to higher positions. He was a very humble man.
His humility, his care for the poor, that touched us a lot. He's very different in that sense.
Here to pray, the next Pope carries Francis's spirit forward.
I think to pray for the future, most specifically. I will say it was a huge shock when I found out that the Pope passed away. It really freaked me out a little bit, to be honest. But that's part of the reason why I'm here.
He's our leader. He did so much.
For many, Pope Francis wasn't just a leader. He was a force of change.
That's it.
The acceptance he shared is now a hope many are carrying into the future.
So I'm not worried about the next Pope. He was about bringing everybody together, that no one person mattered more than another.
That was Ria Jha reporting. The Archdiocese said today's Mass was part of a larger wave of prayer happening all across the world. Now, tomorrow, the cardinals are set to go to Pope Francis's tomb to pray over the simple marker that he chose. After that, they will prepare to choose his successor in an ancient and secretive tradition known as Conclave. Wild enough, there was an Oscar-winning film released just last year titled Conclave that may really have served as a lot of people's introduction to this centuries-old Catholic tradition. In real life here, we do not know exactly when the real conclave to replace the Pope will begin. We just know it will be sometime after the period of mourning, which ends May 6th. Once it begins, cardinals will be sequestered until they come to a 2/3 majority to agree on the next pope. In modern history, this process has only taken a few days to name a successor.